speaking of iPad, why don't we just get into iPadOS? So I will say not a lot has changed with iPadOS, other than the one noticeable thing I will say is the new Apple Pencil support with it. It's fan-freaking-tastic. So it's really taking Apple Pencil and iPad and it's just making babies with it. So you can now write anywhere on the iPad with your own handwriting on the Apple Pencil, and it will convert it to that actual text. So convert handwriting to type text automatically in any text field. It's freaking amazing. So, and I was watching the keynote and I was like, this is insane. So if you don't like a word that you wrote, you can scribble just like you do on a piece of paper when you don't like a word or you've said something wrong, you scribble it so no one knows that you wrote that word. You can do that on the iPad, but it actually deletes the word, which is it's mind baffling because it's so damn cool, but like, who's going to use it? Like, it's cool, but who's really going to use it? Who's going to remember to do that? Although I may be proven wrong here, because it's going to feel like second nature to feel like you're actually writing on paper, but you're actually writing on an iPad. So when you're writing out a sentence on your iPad and you go, shoot, I've made a mistake, can you just, with the Apple Pencil, you go, and it deletes the word, and you go, oh, I don't have to go back, and I can keep writing. And if I want to convert it to text, it can just automatically convert to text for me. And if it's handwritten notes, if it's handwritten writing, it can automatically change the color for it. And if I want to draw a shape, but I want it to be a freehand, I mean, look at it. Look, it actually colors the text and highlights the text. And if you want to make a shape, you can hold down and it makes the shape that you drew. It's great. Like, okay, I changed my opinion and point of view on it. It's fantastic. It is damn good. And I think that is something that Apple's been lacking. Apple's been really lacking a reason for people to go out and buy an Apple Pencil. If you're not an artist, there's not really a lot of need for you to be having an Apple Pencil. But now there is. Now there's a pull for people to just have the Apple Pencil as just an accessory that's lying around. I mean, the AirPods, everyone thought, who the hell is going to want AirPods? But now Apple AirPods have just become this first nature thing that you buy an Apple product and you need to go out and get AirPods, and you need to have your AirPods with you because it's an extension onto the phone. It's an extension onto the experience. And now the Apple Pencil is exactly that. It's an extension onto the iPad experience. So now you feel like you need an Apple Pencil to really get the full, like, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm like, just, you need an Apple Pencil to really get the fullest out of iPad. So if you don't have an Apple Pencil, you feel like you're missing out. Just like, if you don't have AirPods, you feel like you're missing out on something. And now even so with the spatial audio, like if you don't have that Apple thing, you don't feel like you're actually using Apple. And that is great for iPadOS. And that's really the only noticeable thing that I will say on iPadOS. A lot of other stuff, it's cross-platform basically. So whatever iPadOS gets, iOS is going to get too, basically. And whatever iOS gets, iPadOS is going to get as well. So you've got the same thing, the memojis, the group chat features, and because you've got a bigger screen on the iPad now, you can get sidebars, which furthermore kind of pushes Apple's need to sell the iPad as a computer. Having that screen real estate almost the same size as the MacBook Pro, having the sidebars on the side now is fantastic. So you can see here, you can see that you get the sidebars on the side, where if I can find it, I'm really not doing very well now, am I? I'm not doing a good job. I'm trying to find it. Oh, Siri is tiny down the corner of the screen now, which is interesting. It's actually gone back to, I think that was a feature back in one of the early iOSs, when Siri was like a small little icon down the corner. I can't really show you the sidebars because Apple doesn't really show it. That's kind of an example there, when you've got the sidebars on the side. And one thing that's great as well, Siri has 20 more facts. And I tried it the other day, and it's great because you can have a more in-depth conversation. So I can ask, who was the 42nd president of the United States? She'll tell me. And then I don't have to say the same thing again. I can just say, so how old was he? Does he have any kids? And then she'll actually be able to give me the information and continue on the conversation without me having to reiterate, like, how old is the 42nd president? How does the 42nd president of the United States have any kids? You just continue the conversation on. So that's good. That's something that Google and a lot of other assistants had, but Apple is kind of only just caught up now, which is fantastic. Great work, Apple. Another applaud there for you. So really, I get that this was an incredibly disjointed episode. It didn't really have any structure. I just really wanted to just get into it and kind of just give my thoughts on it and kind of just speak my mind on it. And I will speak my mind on one thing, is Apple's decision to switch to their own chip and ditch Intel. Now, Intel will be peeved because Intel has been providing chips for the Apple products for years. And now for Apple to just go, hey, we're done with you. We're going to design our own thing now. It's due time because Apple have been designing their own chips for their iPhone, their iPads, and their TV OSs and stuff like that. And it's great. I mean, the iPadOS, I think they said in the keynote, is 1,000 times faster than what the iPad was 10 years ago. Like, that's incredible. So, and that's all just down to Apple's own A12Z chip, basically. It's all down to that. So it's harder to translate that to a much more heavier computer, but I feel like now that Apple has control of their code and of their chips, of their internals, they can really fine tune it. So you're not going to get the thermal throttling like when you did with the Intel MacBook Pros. They're going to be able to really control that more because it's their own chip and they don't have to wait for Intel to come up with the idea and design it. Apple can do it themselves now. And it's not going to happen immediately. Apple did say the first Apple Silicon-based MacBook Pro or MacBook will be coming by the end of this year, early next year. But the transition to go completely from Intel to Apple Silicon is going to take about 2 years. And developers have this weird decision between whether they want to optimize their apps for Intel-based MacBooks or they want to optimize it for Apple Silicon-based MacBooks. And that's a tough decision to make right now because all of the MacBooks currently are Intel. So you're going to want to obviously optimize it for the most up-to-date Macs. But when you start to get more and more Macs that have Apple Silicon in them, you're going to really need to start thinking about whether you want to, put your money and effort into optimizing it for Apple Silicon. It comes down to who your target market is. If you're designing an app, who is it going to be for? And what is that person going to use as a computer? So are they going to get the newest MacBook with the Apple Silicon in it? Or are they going to go get a cheaper MacBook with the Intel in it? That's when you need to kind of weigh it up and go, listen, my consumers are going to buy Apple Silicon computers. So I need to optimize it for Apple Silicon. But Apple's trying to make that transition easier. They're giving them basically a Mac Mini, which has basically got the internals of the latest iPad Pro inside of it. And it gives them all the kits for Xcode to be able to optimize their apps. And Adobe and Microsoft Office have already natively supported Apple Silicon, because in the keynote they were on the new Mac Pro, which looks so sexy, by the way. They were actually using their own Apple Silicon to show off all of the demos. So Adobe and all that, they've already kind of updated it, all ready to go for when Apple Silicon does come out, but we won't see that probably until the end of the year. And app clips as well is the last thing I'll touch on. Basically Apple's take on Android's instant apps. So if you're at a coffee shop and you need an app to order that coffee or get special prizes, or if you're going to order a scooter and you don't have that app to be able to pay for the scooter, then Apple will download a short 10 megabyte max clip of that app, which will just allow you to be able to pay for it, sign up an account, and use the app and use the feature that you need. And then basically it's so much easier than having to buy or get an app, which we all know we never use again. We download an app just to do one thing and then we put it away on the end of our pages and completely forget about it. So App Clips tackles that and now goes, there's an app clip for that. So now basically you'll be able to go out, get a quick clip of the app, do what you need to do with it, and never have to worry about it again. Like, it's gone. It'll be done after that.